Now let's look at the settings that affect billing. There are many such settings and you should check them all before actually doing billing because you want your billing to be accurate. First thing I'm going to do is hide the stats so we can focus on the menu. Now I'm going to go to Preferences, and inside Preferences there are 4 settings there, and they all apply globally. In other words, whatever you set here is going to apply to all customers. Let's look at System Settings. Inside System Settings, if we scroll down to the bottom, you'll see there are 2 fields here. The first one is print a header on each invoice. That refers to the fact that if you're printing invoices on letterhead, which already has a logo and your company name, you may not want the invoice to actually print its own header with a logo and your company name, in which case you would simply come in here and set this field to no. The next field over says print an invoice return slip. An invoice return slip is a good idea because when you get the slip back in the mail with a check from the customer, you can easily see the customer account and how much the customer was billed, and you can tell based on the check that's included whether they made a complete payment or a partial payment. So if you want to print a return slip, you leave this field yes. If not, you select no. Okay, let's look at some other settings. Next we'll look at the financial settings, and there are a few that you should take note of. The first one, bill for parts used in service. Again, this refers to parts that are used during routine service. So if your pool techs go out once per week or a couple times per week, that's the kind of routine service we're talking about here. And if you want to bill for parts used on a routine basis, then you leave this yes. If not, you select no. Next, turn your attention to the sales tax. Sales tax is obviously different not only from state to state, but also city to city, and there may also be local fees included in your sales tax, so you want to check and make sure that you're using the correct sales tax. The other thing that you should also check is to make sure that your state requires you to charge sales tax on labor or chemicals or parts. Not every state does. Now below that are your invoice late fee policy settings. The system allows you to charge a late fee for customers who don't pay their bills on time, or you may not want to charge a late fee at all. The first field, invoice grace period, is the one that you set that allows the system to say, okay, for this many days the customer won't be charged a late fee. The next field over, late fee percent, is obvious. It's the amount of percentage that you're going to charge the customer, and this percentage relates to the invoiced amount. So here, for example, we would be charging 1% of the invoice amount if the customer is late after the 15 days grace period. The next field over is the frequency, and note that the first option is do not charge a late fee. So if you don't want the system to charge a late fee, that's the option to choose, obviously. If not, then you can choose the period that that late fee should be applied. Okay, now we're done with the financial settings. Let's go look at the chemical settings. Look at the advanced chemical settings which apply to your inventory. Chemical settings are used for people who don't maintain an inventory. Now the first one that we should look at is bill for chemicals used. Again, this is just for routine cleaning and maintenance jobs. This does not apply to work order items. If you want to bill for chemicals that are used during routine cleaning, you leave this yes. If not, you change it to no. Now, also on this page are your chlorine tablet weights, your skimmer stick weights, and your bromine tablet weights. They're defaulted to these numbers here, and these numbers are accurate for 3-inch chlorine tablets, skimmer sticks, and 1-inch bromine tablets. If you use a different size tablets, go ahead and put in the correct weight for each one of those, and the system will be accurate. Now, in addition to these global settings, there are other settings that sound similar to them, but that can be used to override them. Let's take a look. To do that, we go into accounts, and we're going to select the customer accounts. Let's just choose one, and we'll go to edit, and about 2/3 of the way down, you will see service charge. Service charge is the amount of dollars you're charging your customer for the service that you're providing. Frequency is self-explanatory. If you want to charge them once a month, you can, or you can charge your customers twice per month or weekly. Now, the next field over says charge for each visit. And there are some companies who, rather than charging their customers on a monthly basis, will charge for each visit. If you select yes here, then the service charge is the charge that you are going to charge on a per visit basis. Also, to the right of that is charge for chems. Again, this is asking you, do you want to charge this customer for chemicals that are used during routine service? And the same thing goes for parts, charge for parts. Do you want to charge for parts used during routine service? If you select yes or no here, it will override what you set in the global settings that we just looked at in preferences. So this is a way for you to set the global preferences to affect all customers, and then make exceptions by coming into the customer account and changing those settings. We'll talk about mandatory chem charge and mandatory part charges in a later section. Those have to do with billing strategies, so we'll cover those later. And with that, your billing settings are now correct, and we'll go into exactly how to use these later on.